because at some point you are not going to have somebody to push you behind your back, say, hey, go pray, hey, go do this and that. So you would have to make an effort for yourself to get closer to Allah in this case. And and that's not something that
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Jeune Maman Podcast, where we talk about all things pregnancy, postpartum, motherhood, tips and tricks, and more from a Senegalese American perspective. Today, we are coming at you from a different angle, and I have a surprise guest for you guys. This has been a long-awaited interview. I have been trying to get this person to come on this show for, well, not even just this show, all my other projects, because I literally am the biggest pest in the world when it comes to this person. He's my little brother, a good friend of mine, also known as the Ice Geek on social media. So I'm going to give him a chance to introduce himself, and we will get started with today's interview. Imam, how are you?
Hey, Aida. It's definitely a pleasure to be here. So happy to finally get this to work. But hey, yes, thanks again for making this happen. And definitely great to be here.
You know, I still don't believe that your name is Imam. I've never met someone with that name. I need to see a birth certificate.
You got. It's about being special sometimes. Not just kidding. Yeah, well, but it's actually a thing. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was saying, like, people usually refer to Imam as a title, but it also exists as a name, and it's the same as many other names, like El Haj. It's not meant to be a name when you really look at it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But I've met other El Hajs. I've never met another Imam, though. That's what I'm saying to you.
It's about being special.
That's why you're special. I know. Well, I believe it now. So, actually, give us a little bit more of an introduction into who you are before we dive into the interview.
Yes, so my name is Imam. I come from Senegal. I'm currently living in Amsterdam. I'm 22 years old and a student, a graphic design student. Excuse me, graphic design student at Amsterdam Media College. Also got married last year, which is a very important thing to mention. So basically, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're 23 now. You got married at 22.
Yeah, 21 actually. Yeah, right before turning 22.
We will get into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that introduction. Today, I want the conversation to be free flowing. I don't want to pinpoint you to these, topics, but I do have a couple of things that I noted down that I want to talk about with you. Mm-hmm. I've known you for, I want to say 3 to 4 years now. I don't know exactly when I actually reached out to you initially on social media. That's when you were posting a lot on your Ice Geek Instagram page.
Yeah.
And so for those of you who don't know, if you have followed my journey into all the projects that I do, Imam has been at the forefront of it, even though he was in the background, because all my graphics, pictures, logos, like he's helped me out so much. And I just have to say thank you for that, because I'm the kind of person who is always into something. I can't seem to sit down, but you always put up with my antics. Anytime you would give me
like you were the art director, so I would literally follow what you said, and then things would happen.
Well, thank you so much for being part of my journey. I really appreciate it. So I had to take the time to say that. For today's discussion, I wanted to focus on the faith and rediscovery journeys of the youth in our community. Mm-hmm. And I purposefully didn't send you these questions ahead of time because I wanted to get your answers just from a very on the fly perspective. I feel like you can do it.
We'll do our best.
You got this. Mm-hmm. The first question I have for you is, what trends have you noticed in our community, especially the Senegalese or African community, when it comes to their faith? And I don't want to give my opinion yet, so I'll just let you talk first, and then we can just have a discussion on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting point, and there's definitely a lot of things happening. I do believe that people are getting somehow more and more conscious of their faith, and trying to like they're showing it more, for example, on social media. For example, when you see these TikTok trends of them doing some activities and then inspiring and inviting others to hop into it. At the same time, similarly, we see that people are also taking stuff lightly on the religion, like on the other hand, and like neglecting some part of it, and trying to make it seem like it's a small thing that you can just get away with, but when it's actually important. So I think definitely a lot of things happening, a lot of things going on, and I think that we will go more into the specifics as we keep going for the discussion.
Yeah, definitely. I have similar sentiments. I think, and I can see myself on both sides of that, where I struggle or grapple with, like, okay, I want to do these things perfectly. I want to get closer to my dean. I want to do all these things, but at the same time, there are certain things that obviously, like, just physically, you can see, like, I'm not doing certain things, and so really going through that internal journey of how do you get closer to it? How do you appear to others? Because one thing about Islam, and so for those who are listening, the religion that we're going to be primarily talking about is Islam, because that's what we both have grown up around.
Yeah.
And one thing about Islam is that, in my mind, people should be able to look at you and tell you're Muslim, or get an aura of Islam from you. And so I know that's, especially in the youth, we definitely have a lot of work to do. But I think I agree with you in the sense that we are starting to see trends, especially on social media, of people making that journey and making the journey publicly.
Correct. Yeah. 100%. And, when you talk about Islam, of course, you will kind of also link it to parenting, because this is something I realize, but I'm just thinking of it right now. But for example, when you're a child, you basically are not religious because you fear God or whatsoever, but you actually fear your parents, when you're younger. And then as you grow up with that, and as you become an adult and become more free, let's say, in a sense, and then you don't have like that fear of your parents anymore. It's like you kind of start drifting away from the religion. That's something that's like a sort of pattern that I kind of pointed out, or just right now, and I think that also says a lot about how like how you're gonna develop in the religion over time. Yeah.
That's the perfect segue into the next point that I had for you, actually, is the impact of self-teaching or self-discovery. Because, like you mentioned, for most of us, we were born Muslim. Our parents just kind of told us we were, and we did the practices without truly understanding what it is. And so what do you think about that in terms of the impact that your self-discovery can have on the journey that you are on as a youth?
Yeah, that's 100% definitely like related to the previous question we also had, which is like that pattern that you will have to follow at some point, and then kind of discover yourself the religion, because at some point you are not going to have somebody to push you behind your back, say, hey, go pray, hey, go do this and that. So you would have to make an effort for yourself to get closer to Allah in this case. And and that's not something that somebody will push you to do it. Like that's kind of, that's 100% coming from yourself. And it's normal, which is important to say. It's absolutely normal to be struggling with the deen. There's nobody who is like, yeah, right now I'm chilling, I'm 100% comfortable with it. So it's absolutely normal to be struggling with it. But the most important thing is to just make an effort, And there's also this hadith of Allah saying, like, walk towards me, I will rush towards you. So that would show you that you just have to make a minimum effort, and then everything will happen easier, And if I take myself for as an example, I was not that much into the deen a few years back, let's say, and everything happened so quick, just by me trying to make some small steps, for example, every single day, try to improve one single point, it could be reading the Quran. It could be like, for example, reading a verse a day. You never know how this is gonna lead up, and in a long run, let's say, you would be finding yourself doing way more than that, way more than one verse a day, for example. You would be finding yourself reading a page a day, or so it's just about that consistency and taking the first step, and not only taking the first step but trying to be consistent with it, taking small steps. And that's definitely one thing that's going to help you develop some sort of faith. And and you would be independent with it. Like, you won't need so I was saying, so you won't need anyone to kind of push you to do it, or to make extra efforts.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
sorry.
think you're telepathic because every time I ask you one question, I'm looking at my list, and the next
Mhm.
question you're already talking about. I love it. That's
Yeah,
good.
I mean, like, I'm not trying to be that annoying religious guy. I'm like trying to
It's
relate
not a
everything to the religion, but it's the reality. Like, everything is linked to it. So
yeah.
and in every single topic as well. So and as you acknowledge that and try to use it on the way you're discovering yourself, on the way you're exploring things, and it just makes everything easier. I mean,
Mhm.
that's my point. That's what I experience personally.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
want to circle back to the
Hmm.
parenting thing because that's
Hmm.
something I'm actively working on now. Is
Yeah.
my daughter is still small. She's
Hmm.
one in a couple of months, but
Hmm.
I think a lot about what I want her to see me as when
Hmm.
she gets to that age where she starts to recognize things.
Hmm.
So I don't want her to grow up and be like, "Well, I'm not doing this because you didn't do it." I
Hmm.
never want that to come out of her mouth.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Not that she has to live the same life as me, but as a parent, you want to teach your kids not how to. You don't want to give them a fish. You want to teach them how to fish.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
me, I'm thinking about, okay, by the time she's, and I don't have a magical age yet, but I'm thinking
Hmm.
like by the time she's conscious enough to be aware, and
Hmm.
I'm thinking back to myself, and a lot of us, I think at the age of 5, we can start to recognize things, and
Hmm.
a lot of our memories goes back to when we were 5.
Yeah. Hmm.
I'm on a journey myself to be the best version of myself by
Hmm.
then. I mean, hopefully not the best because I want to get better and
Yeah.
better, but by then I
Hmm.
want to get to a point where she can look at me and be like, okay, yeah, that's it.
Hmm.
So going back to the parenting thing, and I don't know if this is a question or just a statement. I might
Yeah.
be going on a monologue
Hmm.
here,
Yeah. Go
but
ahead.
it's something that I think about a lot because for many of us, like you said, we were told to go pray. We were told to
Yeah.
fast. And
Hmm.
when we grow up, something that came to mind is the Why Me series that
Hmm.
Sheikh Suleiman is doing. And one of them
Hmm.
is, am I truly a Muslim?
Hmm.
And I just love that one because I think that's a question we all have to ask ourselves
Hmm.
is, am I Muslim because I was raised this way and I'm just supposed to do it? Or am I Muslim because I chose to be Muslim?
Right.
So that's
Hmm.
something that I
Yeah.
want to bring up because I think a lot of our listeners are probably having, whether they're
Hmm.
saying it out loud or just thinking it, are
Hmm.
probably thinking the same things.
Hmm. Yeah. I think when it comes to parenting, you know, things happen earlier than people usually think. For example, you stated the age of 5, but for example, I think the children start recognizing things much earlier. Like, as soon as they can recognize, like, they know who
Mm-hmm.
mom and dad is, for example. If you may have realized it already, but children usually pick up things by imitating. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
excuse my English. So yeah, so usually they just for example, you can see some 2 years old seeing their parents pray, and then they just try to pray with them and do stuff like that. So it actually starts at a very young age, and I think it's from there that you will kind of have to build up, and then try to make things indirect, like without even forcing them at some point, and trying to let them understand by themselves that, okay, this is probably leading to something good, or if mom and dad always do this, then that probably means that this is very important, and there is something hidden behind, like there's a
Yeah.
treasure that is
Yeah.
behind. So yeah, I think that yeah, if the child like grows in that mindset, trying to understand like what's really the meaning behind this, and what am I trying to like, what's so good about it that people are really spending that much time in it, that will definitely like raise some sort of curiosity in them, and make them want to dig further into it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's definitely a thing. And also regarding the why me thing, it's something that, like, I don't know if you have realized this, but the reverts, I realized that always the reverts, they're like 200% more focused into the religion that rather than the ones who were born Muslim,
Yes.
for example. Yeah, you've probably seen that. And I think if you're born Muslim, you just take some things for granted, I think. You know, like you take your faith for granted, thinking that this is something that's going to remain with you forever, but you're not even sure if you're still going to die a Muslim, as a Muslim.
Mhm.
So, which is
That's
very
true.
scary as well, you know? So that's why you have to recognize it as a blessing, that the faith you have is a blessing. And
Mhm.
you just have to keep like polishing it. You just don't, leave it like that and say, you know what, things are going to happen, and it
Yeah.
goes back to what I said at the beginning. You really need to make an effort. It's by, trying to build small steps that you will get into a specific point, and
Yeah.
striving to be the best version of yourself is something that you should always do, and that you shouldn't like wait till a specific period to say, okay, now I'm gonna start, because the scary thing is the time is limited and you don't know where your time is going to run up. That's the thing, so that's why you always have to hey, don't stress out. Don't stress out. I'm just yeah, but it's the sad truth, though. It's the sad truth.
Yeah.
Like we usually take things for granted and think that we have enough time. It's like you telling yourself, okay, if I get 200 reminders, then I'll start practicing, for example,
Hmm.
and then if you die, for example, at your 105th reminder, and you won't go to Allah and say, hey, but I still had the 50 reminders left in my head.
Yeah.
So, it's not going like that. So that's why you really need to start ASAP and, try to work with it and understand
Yeah.
that you can't be perfect in one day. It's going to be difficult. Some days you're going to be like, how am I going to do this again? But yeah, but it's definitely something that you have to work on, and people usually don't make it their goals. That's also one thing. But if you really make it a goal, and if you really make an effort and try to take that first step, you're definitely gonna get something positive from it. 100%, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. I think a couple of things came to mind as you were talking. The first
Mm-hmm.
being, I think our parents raised us from a point of fear, or our
Mm-hmm.
society. Being Senegalese, I'll say that is,
Yeah.
it's always about what will happen if you don't do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only that, from what I've noticed during like certain events like
Mm-hmm.
Magal or
Yeah.
Gamu or Ramadan, when people
Mm-hmm.
are saying, oh, if you do these prayers, God will do these things for you. So even when we are saying it in a positive way, sometimes it's
Mm-hmm.
like from a selfish perspective of what you will get out of it.
Yeah.
I think if we shift the mindset when we're raising kids to be
Mm-hmm.
more positive around Islam, and
Mm-hmm.
not just about the punishment side, but the
Yeah.
rewards as well. And
Of
we've put
course.
certain structures around it. Like me, what I want to do is like make Ramadan an event.
Mm-hmm.
Decorate my house, get my kids really excited for it, so that they
Mm-hmm.
can look forward to it every year.
Yeah.
Make Juma a thing, like not just like,
Of
oh, we
course.
gotta go pray because we have to go
Mm-hmm.
pray, or it's an inconvenience in our day, but something that you
Yeah.
actually look forward to. So I think if we make those practical changes as we raise our
100%.
kids, they will be more open to the idea of
Mm-hmm.
declaring themselves as Muslims without
Yeah.
us having to tell them.
That's for
And I
sure.
forget the second point that was coming to mind, but it was a good one. You already made it, so we're good.
Was it the one about the reverts, or like
Yes, yes,
yeah. Oh
it
yeah.
actually was.
Yeah.
I have horrible
Mm-hmm.
memory, but I think that speaks to something that Allah says is you have to know me first in order to
Mm-hmm.
worship me.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're saying when
Mm-hmm.
we are.
That's a great thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you don't know, it's easier to get distracted when you're praying. You don't
Correct.
feel as connected. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's another thing that we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you have kids, especially, most of us will have to delegate the task of our kids learning the Quran because we don't
Mm-hmm.
know it ourselves.
Yep.
But we could flip that on its head and use the opportunity for us to also go learn it and make it
Mm-hmm.
a family thing. So that's the other point that I wanted to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely a thing as well, because you know it's never too late to start learning. For example, if I took myself as an example, I've also been into those schools when I was younger, when I was like 7 years old, when I was learning
Hmm.
Quran and stuff like that. But then I didn't do it for like 10 years, and so within that 10 years, I was basically just independent about like nobody was forcing me to do anything about the deen. So it really started from myself again. Like it was again my own initiative to say, okay, you know what, let me just start learning again. There are some many platforms that can help you do that. For example, I don't know if you know Preply. It's like a
No.
platform, a language learning platform where you can find a teacher for literally any price per lesson. You can get it as low as $3 per lesson, which is very affordable. And yeah, there are actually very good teachers over there that are certified. But yeah, by taking those small things and for example, the thing I told you earlier about taking one verse a day and trying to learn what the meanings of the things you're saying are, and which is the most importantly, also trying to know who Allah is,
Mhm.
and like trying to learn his 99 names, his beautiful names and attributes. Like, what do they mean? Who is, when you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, who is Ar-Rahman, who is Ar-Rahim, and even I myself, I'm thinking of starting like a series where I will be explaining these names into detail because because
Sure.
yeah, because like people just mention it every day, but they don't really know what the meaning behind it is, and they usually see God as something. Okay, God is definitely something that you should fear, but you don't have to like practice the whole religion on fear. You have to practice it on hope, and also like you have to have some develop some kind of connection with God as well. And
Yeah.
like when you take His name and attributes, for example, you would barely see any name that will be like scaring or whatsoever. Every time it's like the most compassionate, the most merciful, the most kind, the most forgiving. Like there are all of these names, and for example, Al Ghafar is one of the names where it means He's the one who forgives over and over again. Like
Mm.
these type of names would normally give you hope and say, you know what, like you can't despair of His mercy as he's Al Ghafur, for example. He's the one, Al Ghafar, sorry, the one who forgives over and over again. So, and that would invite you to, always try to repent and go back to Him, no matter how many times you commit a sin or you do something that displeases Him. So, so I think learning this type of stuff, it's definitely a good starting point. And by knowing who Allah is, it's definitely gonna be easier to develop a connection with Him. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I don't have anything to say about that. I completely agree. You should definitely
Yeah.
do that series, though. I think a lot of people will find that useful.
Yeah, so we started. A friend of mine started like a sort of podcast channel on Apple Podcasts where we try to like inspire others to learn the religion again from the basics, and not only from imitating or things that you would see, for example, somebody do in a mosque and say, "Hey, this is cool. Let me just copy this." It's more of learning the sound religion, like from sound sources,
Hmm.
which is like authenticated, like hadith and also verses from the Quran. So at least you would know that you are not going anywhere like in a deviating sex or whatsoever. you know so, and by doing that, yeah, that's also where I want to make a series where I will be talking about the names of Allah, and it will be 100% trying to like the goal is 100% trying to invite others to learn the religion again. And like I said earlier, it's never too late to start learning again. So it's just about making an effort again. Let's just make an effort, and things are
Yes.
definitely going to go positive. Mm.
Absolutely. But I heard you say another podcast. So was there another one that you accepted their invite and you've been dodging mine forever?
No, no, no. Like it's not. I haven't really been talking on that podcast. So what's happening is I'm just like taking, of course, with their approval, I'm taking some speeches from some of the sheikhs. For example, Mufti Menk, people like him very much. So what I do is I take their audios and process it with AI, for example, to remove the echo sounds and whatsoever, and also write the transcripts. So yeah, I just make the audio like um, you know, more, not what's the name for it? like just easier to hear, easier to hear, because usually those would be recordings that are during like Friday sermons at the mosques, so they would have a lot of echo or people talking here and there. So that's why I made sure like to just like fine tune those audios and put everything in one place. But then what I want to do later is actually maybe teaching myself something over there, which is, for example, the names of Allah, or it could also be some hadith, which is definitely something that you would never regret learning, and would bring you much closer to Allah.
Absolutely. I was just giving you a hard time, but whenever you do have, make sure
No,
you
don't worry.
share with listeners.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about
Well, one thing I want to ask you, Imam, you mentioned earlier that you are now 23, which is so young. A couple of times you've said, when I was younger, I'm like, he's still young. But I want to you, in our community, have people try to deter you from going on this spiritual path? Because we have certain sayings in our background, like you should live your youth, and then when you get older, then you should start being more religious or start practicing more diligently. Have you received any feedback or backlash on this path that you're on?
100%, of course. You know how the Senegalese community is sometimes. Of course I would say demotivate you by saying this type of stuff, saying, you know what, hey, you're still young. But back to my point about like the 200 reminders, like it's just not happening like that. You can die at any time. You see babies dying, you see people out like in the teenagers dying. So, you never know when the clock is gonna expire. So yeah, that's why like I find it a bit, it's sad, definitely. It's definitely sad, but I find it like illogical to say that type of stuff to children. Instead, if you see somebody trying to be more active in their religion and trying to make more efforts, what you should do is encourage them and try to, because that's definitely a good path. Like you would rather have that than somebody, for example, going in bars and pubs and that type of stuff. So, so when you have those type of things, you should definitely try to encourage them more. And the sad reality is this type of sayings are coming from parents or relatives, or like not really friends, but it's always someone in your family or whatsoever. But there's a thing which is, if you know that what you're doing is the right stuff, is the right thing, you shouldn't really be looking back and saying, hey, you know what, maybe this, maybe that, because that will develop some waswas is like whispers from the shaitan. So that will develop some more whispers from the shaitan saying, hey, you know what, you have time, you can relax a bit. But it's never going like that. And you never know when the clock is going to expire again. So you just got to ignore those messages and just keep going. Just keep going. That's for sure.
That's a good message. And I have an anecdote about that, actually. So I don't know if you know, I used to wear the hijab.
Yeah.
And I won't say that I was on this super religious path that made me do it. I just started doing it. And I got a lot of that feedback, a lot of that demotivation. And I don't have any excuse for why I took it off. I was much younger, so it could be that I was more impressionable, but I don't even want to say that, because if I was conscious enough to put it on, I should have been conscious enough to keep it on. And I'm back on that path of like, I literally think about it all the time. Like, oh, I want to put it back on. I want to put it back on. I just need to find the courage to just do it and stick with it. So pray for me, inshallah.
No worries. Yeah. Like I said, again, it's just about making an effort. Try to make it your goal. Like, and when you sit back and you really think about it, like, have I really tried to go back on that path? And you're like, I haven't really made that effort. Like, that's usually how you would feel like, So it's definitely, I'm not saying it's something easy, because the social pressure is crazy. Like everyone would be commenting here and there. Like, even my wife has been having that. And with her family as well, almost principal. Like even my small sister as well, she started wearing hijab as well, but she was also getting that kind of backlash, But I just made sure like they understood that this is like they are on the right, so they shouldn't be listening about anything else, and the social pressure, like it's crazy, like you would hear comments from everywhere, anywhere, like coming from every single way. So that's why you just you just have to work around it and see how you can ignore those type of messages and
Yeah,
make the best out of it.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So now I want to get into the part that everybody's been waiting to find out. Why did you get married so young?
Why did I get married so young? That's a great question. um I'm not gonna ignore the religion aspect of it, but okay, first of all, what made it easy for me is I definitely felt like I found the right person, so I was definitely feeling like a sort of very close connection with my wife now, and I could see her as the mother of my children. I could see her as somebody I would muñol, you know,
Mashallah.
like, and he was not a person who I would just look at and say, "Ah, kinyo tina mungini," wala," like that type of stuff, So,
Yeah,
as long as you see a person and you like you don't have any negative feeling about her when you just look at her, that's already something powerful. But of course, we cannot go away with the religion as well, which is
yeah,
something that definitely boosted things, which is the religion is definitely encouraging us to get married early, and it's never something that I thought of doing before. I was always thinking, okay, when I get like what, 29, 30, yeah, but something like that. So what made it easy is, yeah, I was trying to get closer to Allah during that period as well, and my wife as well was in the same direction, so she was also trying to find her way through. And even though we are very different persons, like she's
really.
like this type of, yeah, we're very different, but it's not been a problem, and you would be able to relate in some cases, for example, watching series, the Senegalese series and all of that. So yeah, so yeah, we're definitely very definitely different persons, but we still had the same goal, let's say, at the end of the day. And so I was like, you know what, as long as it is the right person, as long as you have that trust and that tawakkul, which is like some deep trust in Allah, knowing that everything happens for a reason, and you just have to grab the occasion and not let it slip every time. So yeah, so I
Yeah.
just made it happen. So it was very complicated at first, and you probably remember about it because I was talking to
Those
you.
first conversations of
Yep,
like bringing it up and
that's right, because I think you were one of the first people I talked to about it, like when I
yeah,
was planning to do it. So because I don't even know what inspired me to get married very early, but yeah, it's definitely Allah. So yeah, but
it's a good
so
thing.
yeah, when I had the idea, it was definitely complicated to get it across with the parents and stuff like that. But alhamdulillah, everything went smooth. Hmm.
Alhamdulillah, I'm
Yeah.
glad because
Hmm.
when if you find a good school, you don't
Hmm.
hesitate to go to that good school.
Yep.
If you get a good job offer, you don't hesitate to take it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this is even bigger than that. This is a person
Yeah.
that you want to spend the rest of your life with, and like you said, if you have that trust in the
Hmm.
person and in Allah,
Hmm.
it just
Hmm.
makes sense. So I'm glad that
Yeah.
everything worked out.
Hmm.
That was a stressful time for me too. I was praying. I was like, God, please.
No, but yeah, I mean, like, I think the marriage, like the whole process, the most stressful part for me, it was not um, trying to go in to be in the same level with the person. It was not thinking of the consequences, like what would happen after it. It was not the financial part or whatsoever, but it was definitely me talking to my parents.
Yeah.
That was the real challenge, because like if you take a look at it, it's like this. I have two older brothers. One of them is 6 years older. The other one is 2 years older. None of them are married yet. So can you imagine? Like my parents were like in this sort of expecting my the eldest like to get married anytime soon. Trying to look patterns there. And me, I was literally out of the conversation, so they would not even looking at it. They thought I was just this guy, big fan of video
Just
games,
coming in and out.
drawing. Yeah, yeah, just this guy. Like, yeah, okay, he's probably too focused on drawing or whatsoever. And so it was definitely a challenge to come to them and make them understand not only that I'm like interested in one person, and I want to get married. So it was like two big things that I had to tell them at the same time. And I love how one of your previous episodes you were talking about like the authoritative and authoritarian
Authoritarian and
authoritarian.
authoritative
Yeah.
styles. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I had like a mix of both. Like my parents were just like they raised me in a sort of way in which I was like, okay, they were like, okay, just do your thing, but not at the same time. Like I was not at the same time like very close. Like they wouldn't be hey here specifically like supporting you in specific stuff and stuff. Stuff like that. So and also like there's a sort of age gap in which I was not like 100% comfortable with to talk to them about some type of things,
Yeah.
like which became taboo. And yeah, you would usually get some pieces of advice from other people who are not your parents, which is not always fine. But yeah, so
It happened.
yeah, that was definitely a complicated part. So yeah, talking to my mom was okay, better. The moms are always more understanding, but I was like, wow, it's gonna be a challenge to talk to my dad about it. But I remember, like, I really literally remember on the day I had to do it. He was like sitting in the living room, and there's the kitchen right next to it. So I said, okay, you know what? Took a deep breath and said, okay, let me just go. So I walked, as the moment I walked into the living room and I looked at him, I walked straight to the kitchen. I'm like, nah, I can't do this. Literally,
That's hilarious.
I remember walking in and out like at least 7 times. At least seven
Wow.
times, like hesitating. Okay, should I start now? So nah. I was like, is this the right moment? No, maybe I should talk to it later about it later. But yeah, but when I talked to him about it, like, I expected worse, let's say, but it went super well. Yeah, he
Yeah.
completely understood. He was definitely surprised, same as my mom. She was also very surprised, and I could definitely see on their eyes that they were like so stressed about it. They're like, what?
This
So yeah, like really, they were like, what? So yeah, and yeah, but it went smooth. So he just reminded
Yeah.
me that yeah, he was really like making sure I was ready, saying, okay, don't forget that if you have a wife, you are okay. In Islam, the man has to be like 100% responsible. That everything going, talking about finance, yeah, like so the man is
Yeah.
responsible for it. So
Yeah.
yeah, he was maybe trying to scare me with that type of stuff, saying, "Hey, don't forget you have to do this and you have to do this." Jabar dan ke muna yor dan ke muna dekel, that type of stuff. Like what's your plan? Where are you gonna live? It seemed like he was trying to scare me to see if I'm really sure about what I'm doing,
Yeah.
which is something my dad usually does. But
Yeah.
then when he saw that my reactions were always positive about it, so then he understood that I was actually serious about it. So then yeah, he probably went and talked about it with my mom. Excuse my English.
No, it's
And
okay.
yeah, and like whenever people make fun of my accent and stuff, I'm like, hey, how many languages do you speak again?
Oh yeah. Okay. I mean,
I speak like 5 languages now.
yeah, you get a pass. You're good.
So yeah, that's why sometimes I struggle with
Yeah.
yeah, mixing up the words and stuff. So anyways, back to the story. So then when they talked about it, and yeah, they just came back to me, and my mother was still in that stressed period, and wanted to find ways to delay things to the max. So she wanted to delay it to a year. At the first point, I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. Like, no, 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 not even a year. It was like more than a year. She was
I
like,
remember.
yeah. I'm like, nah, this is not gonna happen. Because like, so I was saying, like, I've always been that guy where whenever my parents would say something, I would be like, they're right. They're probably right. They know better or
Yeah.
whatsoever. But here, I was like, there is no point in delaying the marriage. Like, I couldn't see any point. Like, they were trying to have more time for themselves to process things, and I didn't want to stress them too much about it. But at the same time, I wanted to make something so simple, like no big marriages or whatsoever. So I didn't
Yeah.
understand why they needed so much time. And my mom ended up saying, yeah, you know what, they want to do it in Senegal and stuff like that, since she's also here in Amsterdam. Like trying to make stuff like so complicated. So yeah, that's the period when I was like, nah, this is not gonna happen. And I really like stood firm in my opinion. And yeah, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
your parents only want they only want what's the best for you, and they would always end up complying with what you want to do. So
Yes.
so yeah, they ended up accepting whatever whatever it was, even though they tried to delay it again last minute because it was right before Ramadan again. And then they were like, "Shouldn't we wait after Ramadan?" I'm like, "No way, is this not happening?"
No,
So I really stood firm, and yeah, the rest is history.
I'm
Yeah.
glad because you know what was going to end up happening is an avalanche.
Hmm.
You delay it a little bit, something else
Yeah.
comes up,
Yeah.
something happens. God forbid
Hmm.
somebody passes away, then you can't do it
Right.
too soon after. Like I'm telling you,
Exactly.
like you said, it's
Hmm.
the same with the dean and getting
Hmm.
close. There's no
Hmm.
right time except just
Exactly.
ASAP, like now.
Yeah. It's like, when's the time gonna be right? You just have to do it. You just, you know,
Yeah,
the Olaf saying says, Lubach denkt sie gauw. Is it that?
yeah.
Is that
Wait if
correct?
you're
Yeah.
bad.
Where the Lubach denkt sie gauw. Exactly. So
Yeah,
that's why, like, yeah, exactly. When you have to do something good, you shouldn't be hesitating about it. Just do it, and whatever happens, happens. Because the
absolutely.
intention is there and the intention is good. Just make it happen. But
Yeah,
delaying
definitely,
things is, yeah, you never know what can happen in between. In that type of stuff. So, yeah, it's just
definitely.
about making it happen. And yeah. Hmm.
I had the opposite pressure. So I'm the oldest girl,
Hmm.
and I have two younger sisters who are not
Hmm.
married. I got
Yeah.
married
Uh-huh.
late by our standards, 28. So
Hmm.
I remember years leading up to that, and I was not. It wasn't for lack of trying. I was telling my mom, like, "Do you
Hmm.
think I want to be here single?" But
Do you think I'm? Yeah. Hmm.
she would always say, like, "You have two younger sisters. You need to lead by example. If you don't get married, they're not gonna get married." And I was like, do you have a husband for me? Because if you don't have a solution, I need you to stop stressing me out.
I
But
also felt
it's
so bad
interesting.
for my eldest brother because I was thinking the same as you. I was like, okay, imagine like right now in your situation. Imagine if you were not married and then the youngest decides to get married. Like you would go crazy. You would like,
Listen, I would be happy for her, and Islamically, it's fine. But deep down, I'll be like, "What?"
okay, now you're setting me up. But yeah, sorry for interrupting. You were saying,
No, no, you're fine. I just wanted to share that because it's interesting how when you do it too young,
hmm.
they have something to say. When you're too old, they have something to say. So the message is obviously you want to find the right person. I think first
Hmm.
and foremost, we
Hmm.
can't underscore how important that is.
Hmm.
No, we can't underestimate how important that
Underestimate.
is.
Yep. Hmm.
The person that you build a life with, that's single-handedly, in my opinion, the most important decision.
Of
It's
course.
going
Yeah.
to impact every other aspect of your life,
Hmm.
especially being on the same page with that person when it comes
Hmm.
to the dean,
Hmm.
finances, how you want to raise your kids.
Yep.
So I can go on and on about that, but
Hmm.
I have a video that I made on it's important to marry the right person
Hmm.
and not the wrong person. So it's better to marry late than marry wrong.
Of course. Of course.
You don't want to succumb to the pressure of society or feel like, oh, I have to get married because my dean is telling me to do it, to the point where you neglect all the other factors that are
Of
also
course,
important.
no. Mm-mm. Yeah, it's definitely not something you should rush. It's like you said, definitely the most important choice to that because the choice of your spouse is gonna be what's gonna like shape your future. So that's
Yeah.
how important it is, and you cannot just make a quick decision. It's not something that you can just undo in a click of a button or whatsoever. So it's definitely a very important choice. And like you said, society is crazy. Like if you do it too young, yo, yeah, you still have time. If you're too old,
Yep.
like what are you waiting for? Like they're putting pressure on you on every way
Yep.
or on either way. So that's why
Absolutely.
you just have to like especially when you're Senegalese, you literally have to like live in your own bubble, and ignore everything that is
You
around you.
do.
Definitely. I mean, otherwise you really want you you will end up dying. Like that's
Good way of
yeah,
putting it. Yeah. You
yeah,
have to
yeah.
be delusional, kind of,
Hmm. Hmm.
in the
No,
eyes of
that's for
others.
sure. That's for sure. Because if you listen to everyone, that's impossible. You can't satisfy anyone, anyways. And you're not doing this for them. You're doing this for yourself. And you shouldn't let anyone like take that kind of decisions for you. So that's why you
Yeah.
just take your time. I'm not gonna say don't try to do it way too young. Like don't try to rush it. Because I see that nowadays people are actually getting married quite young.
Mhm.
I'm not taking out of my. I'm
Yeah,
talking like as if I didn't do that, but
I know, right?
yeah, but I see that people. It's like a contest right now because they usually. I feel like they're doing it because of social media or whatsoever, like when they see
Absolutely.
something get married, like, oh, okay, I gotta meet her as well, and try to rush things. I've had some personal experience of friends that when they learned that I was married, so they tried to talk to me like, okay, what's the next step for me? What should I do? Like trying to rush things as well. And I said, hey, like, this is not a race, man. You really got to take your time, because it's your whole future that is going to be impacted on this. So yeah, you definitely got to take your time, and there's not taking too long. That doesn't exist in getting married. So just take your time, make sure it's the right person, take the do the proper discussions beforehand. Like you mentioned, I think you also mentioned it on the previous episode, right? Yeah, like the right points too. Yeah, there are a lot of things that you need to talk about before getting married, because otherwise you never know how that can lead up to, what that can lead up to. So,
I've been thinking about putting together like a questionnaire that people need to, you don't have to sit with your partner and fill it out together, but you need to make sure some of these questions are answered before you get into a marriage with someone.
Yeah.
We, in our culture, we tend to look at family ties. If you bring somebody home and you're like, this is a person that I want to marry, they start asking like, oh, who are his parents? Who are his grandparents? And that's important. It is important, the family that the person comes from. But I think in this day and age, when people are living abroad, people are living all over the place, it's even more important now to look into the character of the person that your child is bringing home. I think a lot of moms would be shocked to find out that the good person who comes from a good family that they married their daughter off to doesn't pray or doesn't do XYZ. And that's not to say they're a bad person. Everybody's on their own journey. But I think what the message I'm trying to get across is we have to, as people who are seeking partners, do their due diligence, ask the right questions. And as parents, make sure that the person, you actually get to know the person your daughter is or your son is trying to marry. That's one thing I know, like in Western culture, they kind of do it on the extreme level of like integrating families prior to marriage. And I'm not suggesting we do that. Obviously, we want to keep things the halal way, but get to know the person. It's not that you see them one time and you want to be the kilifa and you're like, you're just saying, like, no, get to know the person. Understand, is this the right person for my daughter? Is this the right person for my son? What qualities do they have? So bring them around for family holidays, because that way you have chaperones around, things like that. But I think there's just more that needs to be done to truly get to know the partner that you're setting your child up with, versus after the marriage. Now you're trying to be like, no, Munyal, or
and they will always be like, hey, you got yourself into this, so then you would have to face the consequences. So that's the thing. They're like, hey, you got yourself into this, so now Munyal, that's literally what they're gonna say. And of course I definitely agree with you on that point, and which is definitely something very important. And like, I don't know why people are not really taking the time to do so. I mean, like, there is nothing keeping you away from asking the right questions or talking about such things. Even in Islam, it's not like it's haram or something. Like, you can literally sit down with the potential spouse and with somebody, for example, her mahram, her parents, also there, and you can talk about some things in specific, like, okay, what do you think about this, and what are your expectations in this and this and that? Then at least you would be on the same page before getting married. Or like, that's way better than like going all the way into the marriage and trying to adjust yourselves here and there. Of course you can adjust to small things, small things that they enjoy doing or whatsoever. But these are like really important stuff that need to be addressed beforehand. So we're definitely waiting for that checklist. Yeah, that would definitely be handy for us, for some people.
I will put it together, because I know I'm not suggesting something that I didn't do. I did this. I remember when my husband and I were talking, I used to just spring questions upon him, like, I need to see.
Yeah.
One of the things that I asked him was, God forbid, if we had a daughter and in her teens she got pregnant, what would we do? And he was like, Subhanallah. And I was like, no, but really, like, I think that's such an important question to ask for women to ask their potential husbands, because it will show you a lot about the person.
Correct.
It will show you if they will understand or accept God's decree, because everything that happens to us is written already. So of course nobody wants to have a teenage pregnancy, but it happens, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm the kind of person, I think morbidly. I always think kind of worst case scenario, like, okay,
Yeah.
I have to prepare for all scenarios.
Expect
But
the worst and
that
never be
question,
disappointed.
exactly. That question, it shows you the person's compassion level. It shows you their logic, because are
Hmm.
they going to jump straight to, well, what did she do to get pregnant? Or are they going to jump to solutions?
Hmm.
It'll show you how they view women,
Yep.
and women are highly regarded in Islam. So I think
Hmm.
that's just like such a good question. And of course, you
Hmm.
want to really get to know the person before you ask that. But
Hmm.
I've eliminated some people based off of that question.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you definitely gotta ask the right questions as well. Yeah, because
Yeah.
yeah, that definitely shows a lot about the person. And usually, I think in Islam, for the women, it's recommended to basically look at, when they have to choose a spouse, they have to look at his character and conduct, and then the deen as well. So I
Yes.
think character and conduct like sums it up all, you know. So yeah, the main things are in there, and like the way he reacts to some stuff, like things that he take lightly or things that he, you know. But yeah, it's by checking those things that you will see the red flags. But the problem
Mm-hmm.
is when you're really in love, like you would ignore some of the red flags and say, hey, you know what? So that's why when you said introducing him to your family or whatsoever, like they will be seeing it in a better perspective than you, because when you're in
Yeah.
love, you're like, love is blind, like they say, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
yeah,
Absolutely.
they would see it from another perspective and be able to warn you on some of the stuff, like some of the red flags they see that you may have not seen. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's definitely a thing. Hmm.
Definitely. So, what are some things that you were actively doing to be a better husband, according to society, or like decent morals, or just Islam in general?
Like what do you mean? Sorry, I didn't get the question. Like.
Something that you're doing actively
Mhm.
and consciously to be a better
To
husband.
be a better husband, I mean, I think the the first thing is trying to be the best version of yourself first. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
like yeah, in a lot of things, like what you would want your wife to be or whatsoever, like you have to lead by example, of course, you know. And one thing that you also have to do is like managing your expectations, which is
Mm.
something I did a lot, you know. Like I did not try to set too high like expectations, but I also tried to stick to whatever expectations she had with that, and that we discussed
Mm.
before marriage. And I think the lifesaver of every couple or marriage is communication. So getting your communication to the top notch, like to the
Yeah.
best level you can, that's the thing that's gonna save you with everything. So that's something that I definitely had to work on a lot, because I was that type of person who would, yeah, you know, just stay in my own bubble and like very, you know, I wouldn't like
Yeah.
really communicate how I feel in some type of stuff. And I knew that it was not something good. I knew it was definitely something bad, and you know, so I tried to get a bit more social, and not social literally, but
Yeah.
yeah, we like more communicative with my wife, let's say, you know.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that's something I'm still working on. I mean, according to her, I'm doing great, but yeah, I'm still working on it and trying to make it better, you know.
That's
Yeah.
good. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the most important thing, communication in
Of
all
course.
aspects of life, but especially with marriage.
Hmm.
You're living with a person, you're
Hmm.
bound to step on each other's toes.
Yeah.
So it'll happen, but just
Hmm.
communicating
Of
and
course.
remembering that that this is, you're in it for the long haul.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
keep that in mind, and you're like,
It's a
well,
marathon.
here we go.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Hmm. That's definitely a thing. Yeah,
Thanks for
yeah,
sharing that with us.
yeah. It's
Um,
a pleasure.
Something else that I want you to share with us is your Umrah trip. Can you tell us about that?
Ah, another thing. Yeah,
Thing.
Umrah trip. Yeah, it was. It was definitely a great experience. You know, and what led up to this, I think it's like I said at the beginning, trying to make small steps. You know, like every one of us would want to go to Umrah. You know,
Yeah.
but who actually have them on their like checklist, on their like goals list, you know. Like
Yeah.
people don't really, they say okay, I want to do this, but they don't really take the time to set it on their like goal list or whatsoever. So what happened is, yeah, it's just like that, you know. I was like, okay, if I don't plan for this is not gonna happen. It's never gonna happen.
Hmm.
So step
Hmm.
one, I need to make it a goal. And actually initially wanted to go last year,
Mm-hmm.
So last year I said, you know what? By the end of this year, I gotta make sure I go to Umrah. Like what's keeping me? I have all the conditions. Like, you know, here, Alhamdulillah, you have the means to work, which is much more easier than in Senegal, for example. So you can, if it's the financial problem, the financial part is not an issue. It's definitely not an issue, and it's not too far as well, the distance and everything. So, and I usually spend money almost every year going to different countries, for example, going to Turkey and spending money on things that, you know, that won't benefit me in any way. But then I say, okay, like this is the potential best trip that I can ever have. Not only like in a touristic perspective, but also that will get me much more closer to my deen. And so I said, you know what, let me just make it a goal and make sure by the end of 2023 this is gonna happen, you know, like
I love it.
so yeah, but alhamdulillah, when you, like I said, when you just take the small steps, you don't even know how Allah can make things happen faster than you think. You know, I thought it would be much harder, but alhamdulillah, Allah made it, definitely made it easy, and you know, I found just a good company that would take care of the entire trip. You know,
Yeah.
so it's like a one-time payment thing, and they take care of the hotel, flight, and everything. So yeah, so I was like, you know what, I'll do it this year. You know, so I
I
tried
love
the first time. The first time I had the intention to do it, and then literally a few days before the trip, they refused the visa. So I was like, well, and that was definitely discouraging, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, so I was like, okay, you know what? So I prepared the whole entire year for this, but you know, it's just about accepting Allah's decree and you know,
Yeah.
being content with whatever happens in whatever situation. So I just took the L, you know, and I said, you know what? Okay, whatever the time, whenever I have the opportunity again, I'll try to seize it. And then there was this one other time, which is the last time. The same company I wanted to go with, they just posted an announcement saying, okay, in 3 months there is this Umrah trip happening. I was literally not ready financially, mentally, or whatsoever, but I was like, you know what? I'm going on this one. Like, I won't miss this opportunity. And alhamdulillah, God definitely made everything so much easier. And it was the best trip I ever had. And I definitely want to go
Oh,
again.
Allah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was the right time. I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm so happy that I could have that opportunity, and it's not something, you know, as well that yeah, you know, like you would really expect. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, let's say society would say, okay, you're too young for this again. You know, you have time, and you know, but you're spending all that money in trips going to Dubai and whatsoever. So why not, you know, take that money and do something that not only you discover more things, but you will also get closer to your deen. So yeah. So yeah, I didn't hesitate in that point, and I don't regret. And the only downside is once you go once, you always want to go back. So like right now, yeah, definitely want to go back, and yeah, yes, amazing experience, amazing experience. Like it's crazy to see
I
things.
hear people say that all the time, that you want to go back. It calls you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Like when you like see things in real life, and when you go to places that our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has been to and stuff like that, you know, it just hits different. I really can't really find the words to explain
Yeah.
the feeling of it, but it's just amazing, you know, and see that like the legacy that he has left, like seeing all of these millions of people that you're seeing, like everything was initiated by this one man, and like
Yeah.
thinking of the hardships that he went through, and also when you learn about his story, his sira, so his story, and seeing that yeah, like the potential things he was struggling with, for example, the weather there, stuff like that. I was like, wow, that's crazy. Like the
Yeah.
distance between Mecca and Medina, for example, you know, like imagine, like we were on a bus, you know, we couldn't take the train, so we were on a bus. It was like 6 hour ride, which was like very long, but the bus was still with the airco, the AC and everything, but we were still complaining, saying, ah, this is taking very long. But imagine, like the man was doing it on a camel, like directly
Yeah.
in direct contact with the sun and everything. So yeah, when you experience those things, you're like, wow, that's crazy. And when you see also the level of faith that people have, the locals and stuff like that, yeah, it really shows you that sometimes you're taking stuff for granted. You know, you think that you're doing already too much when you're in your
Yeah.
country, but then you see when people are like really spending their whole days in learning Quran and doing dhikr and stuff like that. You're like, yeah, I really got to do better than that. Yeah, so yeah,
I love
so it motivates you. That's definitely
Yeah.
for sure. Hmm.
I'm definitely planning on taking a trip,
Next year.
and
Next year.
I know, right?
Next year.
ASAP. Um, I'm doing it for obviously the reasons that you just mentioned.
Hmm.
Another part of me is like a little bit preoccupied, so I'm like, I don't want the first time that I witnessed this to be during the Hajj, which is the
Hmm.
big pilgrimage,
Yeah.
the one that you're like
Hmm.
every Muslim should take at least once in their lifetime if they're able to.
Hmm.
I'm like, I want to get out there, scope things out, see
Hmm.
how it is, so that when I
Yeah.
go to the Hajj, when I get to that Hajj, I want it to
Yeah.
be like,
Yeah, like 100% locked in. Yeah, that's
yeah,
definitely a thing that you could do. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's something great that you could do. I mean, of course, to have like the mini experience before, because like we also got to go to the places that we would have to go if we were to perform Hajj, and
hmm
like you would also be prepared like mentally and know
hmm
what you could expect
yeah,
during those days. Like regarding how busy it can get, how the weather and stuff like that. Well, yeah, and we went
yeah,
in December, so that was yeah quite okay during that time. But it was still getting very hot. Imagine Hajj, which is in the dead center of the summer, so that's that's just crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
My goodness. Well,
But
inshallah, like you said, next year,
make it
I'm
a
putting it on
goal.
my vision board.
Yeah, definitely
It's
make it a
a goal
goal,
of
and
mine. I want to go with my husband and take our daughter as well, inshallah.
definitely, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like if you are like if you're financially capable, just don't hesitate. And what you said, doing the Umrah beforehand, which is also a very good thing. I mean, me personally, I think it's better to get yourself mentally ready, and also like know what you can expect. So yeah,
Yeah,
if you can, definitely do that. Mm,
definitely. Well, thank
yeah,
you so much for sharing all of these experiences about yourself with us and my listeners. I really enjoyed this interview. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And
yeah.
I think our listeners will be able to really see themselves in this episode because I'm not bringing an old, imam, no pun intended, to talk to us,
Yeah.
a
Uh-huh.
young,
Hmm.
but one who is
Yeah.
with the times and he gets it. And I think that's just really wonderful to see because
Mhm.
we need more examples like that in our community
Mhm.
to show us that this isn't something that you wait until you're old to do. This isn't
Mhm.
something that you have to be told to do. You can initiate this and
Mhm.
self motivate to get to the point where you want to be with
Mhm.
your dean and with life in general. So I want to give you the time to give some parting thoughts and say goodbye to my listeners.
Yeah, first of all, it's again a huge pleasure to be part of this, and it's also weird to be in the first person perspective right now, where because I would usually sit down and watch and say, hey, like relate. You know, you always want to share your thoughts when you are watching directly from the third person, and yeah, it's definitely been great to share directly my ideas and stuff like that, and also regarding making an effort and stuff like that, you don't myself included, we always need to just try to make the best we can, try to make an effort in every single aspect we can, try to be the best version of yourself, and like I mentioned at the beginning, just make those small steps, and you never know, the blessings will come raining at you. So yeah. So yeah, let's try to make the best of it. Again, thank you very much for having me today. And yeah, it's definitely been a pleasure. Yeah, yeah.
So the pleasure is all mine. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. And
No
thank
worries.
you to my listeners for tuning in to another episode. I appreciate you guys more than you know. This is as fulfilling for me. I hope it's as fulfilling for you as it is for me because this is a project that I started to talk about motherhood, and it's just growing because there's so much that encompasses parenthood and who we are as people. You can't parent if you don't know who you are. I truly, truly believe that. So thank you guys for allowing me to be vulnerable with you guys and go on this journey publicly. I can't say thank you enough. So I'll stop there before I get emotional. But